Okay, I'm Jared Moore, and this is Mvskoke Media's Meet the Candidate for the Mvskoke Creek Nation 2021 election. Tonight's guest is going to be Leonard Gouge. He is a candidate for the Tulsa District Seat B. And without further ado, let's go ahead and just start out. Mr. Gouge, tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're running in this election.
My name is Leonard Gouge. I'm running in the Tulsa District for Seat B. I've been living in Tulsa District for the past 12 years. I currently work for Cherokee Nation, been with them for the past 26 years. Prior to that, I was with Creek Nation for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was with Seminole Nation for a couple of years, and then with Oklahoma Legal Services prior to that. I've been doing in-child welfare work for the past 31 years as an actual caseworker, going into court, advocating for families at Cherokee Nation. One of our accomplishments was to advocate for children throughout the United States other than just within our territorial boundaries of Cherokee Nation. Been married to 28 years to Johnny Gouge, whose family is Kenneth Deere from around Holenville, and her other side of the family is from Coweta, the Chilocki family. And my parents are Felix and Minnie Gouge from Oklahoma City.
Okay, so you're running in the Tulsa district. Who the incumbent for this race is going to be Lucian Tiger. Could you kind of compare and contrast yourself with him? If you were talking to a citizen and you were going to say, "This is why you should vote for me over the incumbent," what would you say?
That I have experience working with the tribes and the communities. I have experience working with multiple tribes in Oklahoma, and have an opportunity to work nationally with other tribes and being part of panels and chairing national committees. Being involved with the in-child welfare cases, I've gotten more in depth with families, talking to the families in their homes, sitting down there and having to express myself and justify myself and be responsible for the decisions I make to come back to ensure what I say is going to be accurate and that I ain't going to do what I say I'm going to do.
What is your opinion so far on the Creek Nation government's response? Response to COVID?
It's, just like Magurt, it's all a brand new situation. Nobody's never dealt with this before, so it's a new area to try to work with. The COVID money coming in, it's going to be helpful. We need the tribe to be involved and participate and assist in trying to meet the needs of the family if they have to go to the hospital, once they come out of the hospital, to ensure those people are still being looked after and taken care of, especially the elderly. That's the history. People are a history of the tribe. And if those people move on, that history moves on also. So it's important to take care of the youth, the elderly, and those people in the middle who are just trying to make it through the day.
Do you think that the fiscal stimulus and things that have been provided so far is enough, or does there need to be more?
I'm sure there's going to be more needed. I mean, there's always the initial part, which everybody's trying to do with the gloves and the mask and all the other PPE stuff. But the fact that it's ongoing and possibly another wave coming through, sure, there's going to be more needs, more money needed, more alternative ways of trying to cope with the situation.
We've got a question coming into our YouTube chat here. It says, "What is your position on hemp and cannabis? Would you support the Mvskoke Creek Nation investing in these emerging green economy industries?"
Yeah, that is another thing that's kind of unique for us. Once we became a certified, justified reservation from the Supreme Court, our tax code has to adjust to meet those needs. Now, cannabis and those houses, those growth houses, they're all new things that we have to deal with. So the tribe can invest in that and pick up the industry themselves and work that out within the tribe, or they can be a regulatory agency and provide regulations and licenses for those communities, or not communities, but for those growth houses and those individuals growing those hemp houses. It's a matter of how we look at it, going along with the tax situation. It all has to be modified or improved and have the personnel and the legal backing to support such an endeavor, because it's all brand new to a reservation now, such as we are.
while we're on the topic of these various things, do you have any legislation that you plan on bringing, like already ready? Like, is there any focused things that if you are elected to council, you're going to do?
That's one of the things I'd like to see happen is have the codes updated. I think it was back in 2009 or 2010 was the last time the codes were updated. So it's way past due. I think that needs to occur. Now, saying all that, there is all the logistics to make that happen. So there is money needed, funds needed to take on that endeavor. There's also needs for the tax codes to be addressed and updated to meet our needs as a reservation now. And there's also the need to have funds to have attorneys to address tax issues that we're trying to propose and work out for the reservation versus what the state of Oklahoma is going to do with tax codes. So there's going to be a legal battle there and struggle, and the tribe needs to be aware we have to provide the funds and support to meet those demands as a reservation to exercise our sovereignty.
So we're talking about the Magurt decision and our reservation status. Is there going to be specific legislation that you plan on bringing to help with that fight? The state is trying to challenge at the Supreme Court level now. I think there's recent news that the state AG is trying to get them to overturn their decision, saying there's chaos, etc. What could you do on the council to try to help that fight, or what is your opinion on that?
Legislatively, on the legislative side, to create legislation to improve the court system. I'm sure we're going to need additional courts around the reservation other than just in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. We're also going to need prosecutors, more full-time judges to be on board to address the incoming, my understanding, the influx of cases coming in now that we have to work with. So it kind of all boils down to the legislative support of growing within our reservation now, because we're not a checkerboard anymore. We are a full reservation now. So we need the manpower to cover that as employment. We need the money coming in to support the new employees coming in, and we'll have to have legal teams to cover all the areas that Magurt is bringing into us. And I agree, we need to exercise our sovereignty, but it's brand new to us, and I understand everybody's a little timid about trying to do that. Everybody's eager to jump in there and say, this is our sovereignty, we are a reservation, we want to make things work. But I don't want to jump in there and say, we're going to be the first to do this and have a knee-jerk reaction. We want to be come in there with a comprehensive plan to make sure we're trying to do it right the first time.
We've had another question pop up in our chat here, and it goes, everyone always uses the platforms, we are going to help our elders and youth. How will you do this different from the previous promises over the years that still don't move forward very much?
I agree. You hear candidates say all the same old stuff. I'm gonna promise this. I'm gonna promise that. I'll be honest. If I'm elected, I'm only one person on the council. I need other people to support my vote. But I do agree. I'll vote for what's in the best interest of elderly. I'll do vote for what's in the best interest of the youth. But I'm only one vote. You have most candidates will come here and promise all kind of things, but I don't think they can ensure what they're telling the people that they can do. I'm gonna be honest and say I'll do whatever I can to make things work, to work with other constituents I may have once I'm elected, and work with the agencies to make things happen. But I've seen it firsthand being in child welfare. I also worked with the Creek Nation and the Cherokee Nation in working in the elder care. So I've been involved with APS.
So we kind of were talking about the reservation status before, and this is one of the questions on my list is, what do you think about citizens paying state taxes on the reservation?
Nobody brings that up. Everybody says I should not pay state taxes. I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to do that now that we live on a reservation. But in turn, the tribe needs an income also. It doesn't say the tribe doesn't have to tax our own people. It's kind of a bad word to say, but the first fight is I don't think we should be paying taxes to the state. But that's just me saying that. We need the legal team in here to enforce that. If they need the legislation to support them, allow them, give them the authority to do that, sure, I'm willing to support legislation to do that.
We've had another question pop up in the chat. It goes, do you believe we are currently meeting our obligations under Article 2 of the 1866 treaty? Why or why not? Now, I believe Article 2, and the question asker can clarify, but that's a freedom article. Is that correct? So I think that's what they're asking about.
That I was going to say, it kind of boils down to the 1866 treaty. It does make statements in there, or there's wording in there to support freedmen. The issue about that is, I was on the citizenship board as chair over there, and the one thing that was stated and mentioned and enforced was we can only work within the laws we have right now, and that right now is the current Constitution. That doesn't address the wording in the 1866 treaty. Now it's going to take a referendum or a constitutional convention to make that happen, but in the outcome and through all that, if the outcome is to do something different than what the Constitution says, then that's my obligation to support that.
Well, as a councilman, if you got elected on the council, would you support that? Would you bring legislation to try to amend the Constitution, or are you against that?
That's going to be, if the will of the people says that's what we need to do, that's what we'll probably need to do. It's the fact that as a legislator, I got to see what the status of the Constitution says now. If it's the will of the people, if the constitutional convention happens, then I have to support whatever the people are saying. The majority of people are saying, do this, we want this changed. And as a person who's saying I'm running for council and I'm going to support not just Tulsa District, but all of the reservation now, then that's what I'll have to do.
Speaking of that, I just wanted to mention really quickly while we're talking about constitutional amendments, there's going to be a constitutional amendment on this ballot in September. If you flip your ballot over, I think it's on the back, and we're having a whole ballot breakdown in the paper issue. But the amendment is to establish constitutional amendment for free press in the Mvskoke Creek Nation. So we're not going to tell you which way to vote, but remember that that's on the ballot and vote on that ballot initiative. I don't see any more questions in our YouTube chat, and I do want to mention to the audience, if you guys have any questions, post them in there. We are at about 12 minutes. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that is important to you in your campaign? Any issues?
Well, everybody says, what is your number one goal? What is your checklist of what needs to happen? My checklist is pretty vast and long, but what I do work with as working in the court system, I advocate across the United States. I'm in court a couple of times a week. I've given testimony a couple of thousand times conservatively. I've been in tribal court, state court, CFR court back in those days. I worked primarily and exclusively with Native American families and children with multiple tribes across the United States. So my goal and desire is to ensure we have a better living condition, a safer place to live with the reservation status. That means improving our light horse forces, which is hiring more people, get them trained, get involved, get the Violence Against Women Act supported and understood, and have people for that. If not, just a office of its own to ensure we are keeping up with all that stuff. And also with the cases coming in of various types of victims, I'm sure we need a database to ensure we're covering all that and not losing anybody in the cracks here, because there's always that potential we forget somebody, and it only takes one other person to get lost and they're victimized again, because we're going back out there and interviewing again and trying to justify. We're just victimizing them all over again.
We've had another question pop up here from the chat. How will you make up for lost revenues if the threats of withholding federal funding over the Freedmen issue comes to fruition?
That's going to be another situation that's going to be kind of new to us all. I'll have to rely to AG's office. If not, then there was a commission developed. We may have to look at those legal expertise that was on that commission and see how we can address this. That may require a team of people to work with the legislators to figure out what is the correct and proper way to resolve this issue and get involved with this issue, to figure out how to deal with it at hand, however this may be. Because like I said earlier, if the will of the people says this is the way it's going to be and it's voted and it's approved, then it's just, whether it's my decision or not, that's just the will of the people, and that's what we have to work with.
We've had another question pop up. Do you believe the Oklahoma law banning CRT HB 1775 can be applied to Title VI JOM Indian education programs in public school districts on our reservation? Sorry, don't ask me to. I'm just reading it verbatim, so I'm not that familiar with that particular.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that's the funding of Johnson O'Malley for the I hope the viewer corrects me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not going to have all the answers. I can say that now, but if it's the funding that the tribe has to include to ensure the reservation schools.
He's referring to critical race theory. That he's doing. The question asker is giving me some clarification here. I think what he's saying is, do you believe the Oklahoma law banning critical race theory can be applied to the Indian education programs taught in the public schools on the reservation? I think what he's saying is, will this ban on critical race theory affect the teaching of Native American history? And what's your opinion on that?
I'm sure it is. But I agree, like other nations of color here, it's trying to overlook or eliminate a person of color's background is wrong. We need people to understand where we came from and what we've been through and where we're at now and how we're still striving and trying to be more productive in part of Oklahoma. We're members of this tribe, but we're also members of Oklahoma too. And to overlook our background or any other ethnicity background is wrong. We're just a part of history also. So we're just as important as anyone else.
We've had another question pop up. Can we ask Mr. Gouge why candidates from other communities who don't know him should vote for him in his own words?
I've only been to one forum so far, and that was the Mulkey forum. And I try to shake as many hands as I can of other candidates and letting them know I have no personal vendetta or any ill will towards anyone. It's just that we're running, and I like to think we're all running to try to improve the tribe or support the tribe or guide the tribe into the future. So voting for me versus the other people in my district running, which I know the majority of those people, I've known them for years already. It's just, I told them the same thing. Nothing personal, it's just, we just happen to be running at the same time.
Well, while we're in a lull here for questions, I just wanted to say thank you for doing this tonight. It's really great, and in the future, we're going to probably, if you make it past the primary stage, we want to have a forum with both of the candidates between the September election and the November election. So I'll be reaching out to you again if you're interested in doing something like that. Just try to keep some time open for us to maybe try to do that in the future. And I want to holler out to everybody out there watching on YouTube. If you guys have any more questions, we're about at 6:18. So is there any other topic you'd like to talk about while we're waiting to see if anybody has anything else they'd like to ask?
Well, yes, everybody talks about taxation. Taxation is a big topic, and looking at other reservations and having worked with other reservations in dealing with Indian child welfare, there's reservations that's been established and in existence way before we are. We're only a little over a year old into this. But those reservations that's been in existence still have issues of being on the reservation, having taxation status. So having picked their brain a little bit when we had time and standing before a judge, waiting for the judge to make his ruling on things, their comments is work slow and cautiously, because some decisions we make may fall back on us when it's the wrong decision. So that's some good advice, I would think, to not jump in there head first thinking I'm the reservation, I can make things work. He says we need to be steady and sure that we're going to make things happen. Now, I understand most people out there are going, we've been a reservation for a year. We haven't seen anything. Let's make something happen. Let's jump out there and stop paying taxes and doing this. And the fact is, our code, I don't think, is prepped to deal with the reservation status, the legal side, which is the Attorney General side over there. My question would be to them is, how come we don't have more judges in there now? We had a year, and we knew it may have been coming. We should have been prepping for that. And that's with any agency or department inside the tribe. We should have been prepped and ready to at least initiate something and have the teams in there to start evolving from now.
We've had a couple of questions pop up. The first one is, Candidate Gouge, in your own words, what is your main objective if elected into office?
Better quality of life for people. No, I don't want that to sound like I'm deflecting anything, but basically what it is, when legislators come in there, they're trying to find the best way to improve the life of our citizens and the safety of our citizens, and to ensure the laws are in place to protect those citizens, especially the victims. I'm an advocate for children, so I want to ensure our children, which is our future, are protected and have a chance at life when they come from a safe and stable home, willing to promote and safely guide their children inside the reservation of this tribe, and just a better quality of life. Now, my statement has always been through my career of doing this stuff, I want to do what's right and what's fair. Sometimes what's right and what's fair is not the same thing, but the fact is, I'm going to do what's right, not necessarily what's right for me, not necessarily what's right for my situation. It's what's right for everyone and what's fair for everyone.
Our next question is, do you support a new constitutional convention?
I was there. I'm trying to recall how long ago that was, but it seems like they were making the statements that every 20, 25 years we should be having another one. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that time is coming around.
Yeah. So that would be, you would support one if it, okay. Let me move on to the next question. What will you do to expand hunting and fishing opportunities for citizens on undeveloped Mvskoke Creek Nation properties?
Well, we are a reservation now, so I'm kind of wondering about that before when I've seen people getting an hunting and fishing license. My personal thought was, do we even need to pay that anymore if we're actually on our reservation and we're fishing or hunting on Indian or Creek Nation land, so-called, to avoid all the other acronyms about stuff? Is it right to do that? I would say yes, but then again, I'm not the legalese to justify and say that, and I don't think we have codes in place that allows us to do that. I could be wrong, but I think I haven't heard anything or anybody come out and say a citizen of this tribe can hunt and fish wherever they can find a spot within Creek Nation. In simple terms, I haven't heard that.
We have another question. How will you support rural communities as well as Tulsa District?
My family's from Hannah. My wife's family's from Holdenville and Coweta. Coweta is somewhat close to Tulsa, but there's the Hannah and Holdenville area out there. And Holdenville's has a little casino out there. Everybody has a smoke shop out there. Hannah hardly has anything. And everyone says this, we need to develop those areas out there. Well, with the reservation now and the taxation, we can entice people to come in with some sort of tax break or some sort of enticement of developing those areas out there. I mean, Hannah, down the road, there's Eufaula. So we can develop things. But, last election, people talked about having a store, which in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking that's a positive thing because Hannah is out there. And there's not you have to basically travel 20 miles to get a loaf of bread. I don't see a reason why we can't develop a store or a temporary store, such as a box van coming out there saying, here's the grocery store and let's make this work. If you need something, let me know and I'll order it and we'll bring it out here to you next week or something. But we need to reach people out there because there are citizens out there living out there and dependent upon the tribe if they can help.
Our next question is, I understand you are ceremonial and was raised traditional. What grounds do you belong to, and how do you feel that helps your background?
It does. That's true. I am all that, but I'm not only ceremonial. I attend church also. I grew up in Oklahoma City, so I lived outside the boundaries of Creek Nation. I graduated from high school in Oklahoma City. I know what it's like to live in the city and be out there working in the child welfare. I had courts tell me they're not Indian because they're right here in Oklahoma City, or they live right here in Tulsa. But Native American people will have to work within the environment they're at. But you think about this, and everybody else think about their personal families. Once that front door closes off of Main Street there, that home is a traditional home. We act and treat and still uphold the customs and traditions of our ancestors. Even though I may be living in Oklahoma City, even though I may have a car out there and not a horse out there, I'm still a Creek citizen. Creek Nation still counts me. So it doesn't matter if I'm living in California, Oklahoma City, or New York City, I'm still a Creek citizen. Being a traditional person just enhances what I do, but that's not all I am.
Our next question is, what ideas do you have to expand tribal revenue outside of gaming?
Gaming was a great thing when it came in. Everybody thought that was the end-all question for gaming because it was bringing in money. And I'm not knocking it at all. It is bringing in a wealth of money, but there is a need for other revenues because initially it was bingo. Then it turned out to be a smoke shops. Now it's the casinos that are popping up everywhere. We do need to diversify our ability to generate income. And it goes back, I hate to keep saying this, but it goes back to taxation. How can we get companies in here to hire Creek citizens? There's ways to entice people to employ our members.
We're almost out of time. I got 2 more questions in here, and then I think we'll probably wrap, guys. So if you want to try to squeeze in one more question, chat, try to do it. I can't guarantee any more than the next 2 are going to get in here. But the first one is, have you seen Reservation Dogs? If so, please share your thoughts about this groundbreaking show.
I was out there in Okmulgee, and we were giving away hot dogs and drinks out there and allow me to put up a sign out there. I only got to see bits and pieces of it because I was across the street from there, but having people come over there and partake of the hot dogs and the drinks we had, they said it was a pretty good show, but it's unique, but they like the idea that it was Native American people that they can relate to on the screen.
And then the last question for tonight is, with Magurt ruling, what legislation do you think is most important, and how would you introduce this?
It's 2 of them that I think is most important. It's, 3 actually. It's updating the codes to meet the needs of the court system, also to update and meet the needs for the police force out there to ensure that we have a safe and stable reservation. Then, and the third is, I think goes on with the police force, is taking care of the victims out there. And along with that is figuring out how to provide a holding facility, whether it's going to be a jail or another holding facility, or compacting with other facilities to utilize their jail system.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys, and thanks for joining us in the chat. Just to shout out everybody, we've got 3 more candidates next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Same deal, and we'll have posts up before they start. If you want to get notified, subscribe to our channel, turn on the bell notifications. You'll know when we're going to start our stream. Mr. Gouge, thanks so much for joining us. And with that, I think we're going to sign off unless there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, I appreciate the opportunity because I know there's a lot of people out there who don't know who I am. And this is a great opportunity for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, Mado, and we'll see you again next time.
All right.